Okay, so very quickly, what do I think of the Mr. Donald Trump's recent comments on Taiwan? Specifically, he said that he will impose a 150 to 200% tariff on China if it enters Taiwan. Okay, so if China enters, which means invades lah, all right, Taiwan, an island it claims to be its territory, then, Mr. Trump is going to, as president, all right, impose very high tariffs on China to punish it, and to beat it into place, right? So this particular comment, I am sure, all right, is going to invite, reactions from especially those on the left and those who hate Trump, because if Kamala were to say the same thing, these people would be clapping, right? But then if it's Trump saying that, then he is too weak and soft on China, I'm sure, that would come out from them, and even from, anti-CCP activists who want to see more, right, action done to China. They might, based on how the news is phrased and framed, have this impression that, what is Trump doing? Has he gone crazy? Is he, senile, or, basically just wrong, on Taiwan, politically incorrect? Because we are talking about a bloody military, right, action, invasion of another sovereign independent country, a democratic and free one at that. And then all you could do is to say that you are imposing some financial penalties on this entity. So, of course, right? Because number one, if it is a state of war, right? China probably, right? If Xi Jinping is crazy enough, right, to want to invade Taiwan, he's probably not thinking money first, right? So the tariffs most probably won't work, because if China really makes the decision to invade Taiwan, it is at all costs, right? And also, even if you're thinking economically, what does 150 to 200, even if you put it at 1000%, right? But China taking over Taiwan, let's just say China succeeds in taking over Taiwan, and therefore acquiring all the chips, all the top secret special menu chips in Taiwan, is like it obtained the key to the world's technology, right? So by then, if it really is successful in doing it, and assuming, right, so we are making a lot of assumptions here, by the way, right, that the world somehow doesn't censure and boycott China and decides to still continue to do business with China, then China will be number one, because with the chips and with all this state-sponsored industries, it's going to come out tops, right? And it's not going to be fearful, of however high tariff you impose, right? So military-wise, economically-wise, this sounds unwise, right? This comment just, right? But again, I think the thing about Donald Trump is sometimes we cannot take his words out of context, right? As I said already, if it's Kamala saying this, you guys will be cheering, right? Because why? Kamala has always been soft. Kamala has always been weak. The Democratic Party as a whole. So any strong word from them is suddenly taken as some, wow, suddenly like, wow, they become Jesus suddenly, just like their remarks on Israel, their remarks on Ukraine, whatever, right? So if Kamala were to say the same thing, all these people will be clapping and saying, you see, we don't need Donald Trump. Even Kamala can do that, right? But if it's Donald Trump, because he has always been strong and powerful and wise and correct, and then suddenly he comes out with some stupid, silly comment, and then, you think that what has become of him, right? But we really need to be very careful here, right? Because what do you expect Trump to say? Can he say that if China enters or invades Taiwan, I am going to be there? Can he say that? Can he just blatantly blurt out, like some foolish guy called Joe Biden, that yes, I will, there is this thing called 战略模糊, right? Which means to be purposefully ambiguous in your strategy towards Taiwan, China, right? And it serves a meaning, because if you are too clear, right? If you are too clear and too obvious in your strategy towards Taiwan, according to Sun Tzu's Art of War, you don't want to be too clear in some contexts, right? There are situations where it is good to be ambiguous, right? It is good that your enemy doesn't know your next step, right? So, I mean, even if Trump becomes president, he's not going to be like the, sole dictator and the only person who can make decisions, right? He has a whole board of White House advisors, national security advisors, Secretary of State, and all these people, who wouldn't allow him to bring America astray, right? Just as they helped keep America in order during his first term, okay? From Mike Pompeo to, defense ministers, they may not agree with him on everything, right? And of course, he calls the shots, he calls the final shots, right? But if enough voices are there to sway him in a certain direction, and he thinks it's good for the country, I don't think he will oppose it, right? So back to this comment on Taiwan, he said he will impose this tariff on China, but he didn't say he will not, be involved in the military defense of Taiwan. He left that out, you can say, right? Of course, the best is he says he will intervene militarily, and then on top of that, if China still wants to do business, tariffs. That would be perfect, right? But he missed that out. He left that unclear, all right, because he didn't spell it out. Will he intervene? Some people say, many Zhonghua on the China side, we want to believe that actually Donald Trump will not help Taiwan. That's what their propaganda is saying every day. Trump will not help Taiwan. So good lah. Then you guys should be supporting Trump, right? Because since you guys love China taking over Taiwan so much, right? But will Trump really not intervene? Nobody knows. You don't know. I don't know. Trump probably doesn't know, right? Because everything has to depend on the situation then. And honestly, I have faith that Trump will make the best decision at that point of time, right? And this tariff comment, because as I said, he doesn't want to say yes or no directly on the issue of involvement because of the ambiguous strategy that the US has been adopting all these years from 1950, right? Or maybe 1970 if you count from the time, right, America started recognizing the PRC instead of the ROC, right? Ambiguous because we don't know what China will do, so neither should China know what we would exactly do, right? Because if it knows what we will exactly do, then it can calibrate, right, its actions according to what we will exactly do and beat us down right there and then, right? And America, in contrast to China that has a one-party state where now, even worse, you have a one-man show, right? Where this guy gets to decide and do 180-degree turns whenever and wherever he wants. America doesn't have that luxury because America is a free Republican democracy. And because of that, different parties can change. And what if one party says, I will help Taiwan, and then the other party says, no, I will not help Taiwan, right? Then there will be a lot of problems because all these foreign entities will be rooting for that party that is perhaps very clear on not intervening or anything. So I don't think it is wise basically to be too clear. Okay, to be too clear and too obvious in what you would do, right? Because parties can change in America, right? In contrast to China. And when that happens, right, foreign policy can change. So whatever was made clear before now can be overturned. Okay? And of course, CCP would have to adjust accordingly, right? Because maybe plan A was this party, continues in power, and then what better plan I have, and then party B, what better plan, you can come up with 7 scenarios, right? Like if this party adopts this policy, what I will do. If that party adopts that policy, what I will do. And then, 2 years later, the government will change. I can calibrate all my actions according to what I think will happen, scenario A, B, C. It is still a few scenarios. It is not like one scenario because parties can change. Yes, there's some uncertainty there for China. But then if you are too clear, right, on your policy on Taiwan, then it becomes easier for them to plan the counter attack plan. But when you are ambiguous, right? When you are ambiguous, it makes things even more difficult, okay, for Xi Jinping, because whichever party wins, he doesn't know what they will exactly do. That's the whole point, right? So what this strategy does well is that whichever party wins in the US elections, China doesn't know exactly what that party will do. And not just that party, because America is not just president, right? There's also Congress, there's also the Senate. And all of these organs, you don't know what they will do, right? They are very firm on supporting freedom, liberty, and democracy in America and abroad. So for sure, they will want to support Taiwan in one way or another, just like they support Ukraine and Israel. But exactly how to do that support, right? And especially as a president, how to intervene, whether to intervene, when to intervene, where to intervene, and all these things cannot be made known, right? So you guys have to understand where Trump is coming from, right? He cannot say yes or no. It is stupid to say yes or no to whether the US will be involved in the Taiwan conflict. Okay, so that's my stance. Feel free to disagree, all right? Feel free to disagree. On China, there can be many ways to tackle it as long as you're on the side of what is right. Okay, so by not mentioning military involvement, it doesn't mean Trump won't intervene, right? It doesn't. It just means that I'm thinking money first, right? And this money first rhetoric actually works mysteriously well, okay, with people on that side. It actually works mysteriously well, okay, because while people on the left in the West, absolutely abhor money, capitalism, and all these people who think money first, people in the East, people in Asia, people in China itself, okay, people who support China in Singapore and Malaysia, they think money first. So, actually the best way to deter China is not to threaten that I will be involved, like Joe Biden, I will be involved. No one gets deterred, right? Because to these Zhonghua Jiaos and these Xiao Fen Hongs, taking back Taiwan is not a money first decision. It is a cultural, historical, blah 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 decision, right? But then it also comes with a perspective on money, because agents, we think money first. So if this thing, if agents were to say, oh, if I invade Taiwan, they're going to impose this tariff on China, It's going to be harder for China to do business. It's going to be harder for me to do business. Then no.
Hello.
Right? I will be less supportive of China's action against Taiwan. You see, it works wonders because whereas in the East, in the eyes of the BBC, the Reuters, and all these leftist fucking organizations, Trump is weak. But in the eyes of the Asians, the Zhonghuajiaos, the little pinkies, they don't know how to react. Right? They are suddenly stunned. They are stumped. Because it's like, oh shit. Money, ladies and gentlemen, is the number one factor of legitimacy to the Communist Party of China. Interesting as it sounds. Right? Because this party is not not your traditional Marxist, Leninist, collectivist only. It is still collectivist, but it is not a totally controlled economy. Right? This bloody guy wants to do business, wants to grow rich, so that it becomes powerful enough to suppress its citizens further and to suppress dissenting voices abroad with the ultimate aim of dominating the whole world, just like Adolf Hitler wanted to. That is the ultimate aim. National socialism. Socialism with nationalist characteristics. Nazism, fascism, and Hitlerism. That's what China is speeding towards. Right? So it is neither this traditional socialist, Marxist society, but neither is it a free and really free and market, capitalist kind of economy. No, it's neither of these two. Okay? So it rightly should receive the highest condemnation from both the left and the right who still believe in what is good. Even if you're a socialist, you should be against China because China has turned its back on traditional socialism. And if you are a capitalist or someone who believes in the free market, free will, freedom of religion, speech, assembly, etc., the more you should be against this regime. So tariffs on China as a rhetoric, I think can work in some ways. Donald Trump shouldn't, be ridiculed just because he said something like that. That's for sure. Okay? And for all those like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who are always like rah-rah in terms of words, Taiwan has a right to exist, Israel has a right to exist, but look what happened. Look what happened to their support of Israel. It is not a total and wholehearted response. Okay? So the same likely applies to Taiwan. So on the surface, in terms of rhetoric, the Democratic Party will be like, go Taiwan. We support Taiwan, independence of the nation all the way. But in terms of the material assistance given, should we trust them more or Trump? That should be the decision we are making. And the American elections shouldn't just be about Taiwan, even though Taiwan is an important topic. But just like I think the topic on Israel and Ukraine, all these are foreign policy topics. I think the American elections should still first and foremost be about the American people and about uplifting the American people. Foreign policy, of course, cannot be too haywire, right? But at the same time, right, citizens need to come first in America. I think they need to put America first, and I think putting America first helps the world. Okay, including us in Singapore, including all the freedom fighters all around the world. Because when that happens, okay, funnily, like how the Zhonghua Jiao says, when China is strong, all overseas Chinese also become proud. I will use their logic to tell them that when America is strong, all freedom fighters in the world suddenly become so proud, suddenly can stand so tall. And that is why I want America to succeed.